There we go.
All right.
There we go. Val, can you hear us all right?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Very well, sir.
All right. So we're just hitting 11:05 here, and I'd like to just get us started because we have a short session today. We really only have 20 minutes. So for everyone joining, feel free again to turn on your cameras and participate. Please, for the sake of everyone talking, stay on mute unless you have a question, or feel free to ask your question in the chat box to the right. But we're going to get started on this cyber discussion roundtable. My name is Helena Krusek. I'll be moderating today's session. I'm the Senior Corporate Venture Associate for Capital Factory, and we are the center of gravity for entrepreneurs here in Texas. I'm joined this morning by Val Mukherjee, Chairman and founder of the Cyber Future Foundation, and Chris Lyons, who also goes by PUP, Technical Director of Cyberspace Solutions at CACI. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
All right. Yeah. So while our participants are getting settled and thinking of their questions, I'd like to start with a couple of really good softball questions just to get the conversation going. Obviously, our roundtable discussion is around cybersecurity, and Texas has become this major national hub for cyber tech, from government agencies like Cybercom to world-class research institutions and the NSA Centers for Academic Excellence across the state. Texas has a lot to be excited about. What are both of you the most excited about in the Texas cyber ecosystem, and why?
I'll take a stab at that if Val will let me go first here. I think one of the most exciting aspects of cybersecurity industry in Texas is the kind of, as you referenced, the whole of community approach. There's significant government presence at all levels, local, state, and federal levels, that obviously have big footprint and lots of participation, spend lots of money. But it's also a good example of the whole of community involvement when you get to the intersection of local government. And I think a good example is local utilities. Right. Protection of our infrastructure is extremely important and grows more important every day. We see active involvement, participation, cooperation through the local utilities here in San Antonio, partnering with academic institutions, for example, and UTSA, and some of the local City of San Antonio government to really step up the game in cybersecurity.
Yeah, absolutely. I would second that. I think this is a really truly whole of community effort. It's also the approach has been consistent for several years now. This has been a great, I would say, also kind of research and tech hub from a where the actual engineering happens, right? Especially coming from Dallas, where it's been the telecom corridor. For a long time, there has been the roots of cyber and technology were very much here. So what took it to the next level is the economic stability that we had over a long time, and a good mix of both commercial and government buyers to support entrepreneurs. I think that has especially given great foundation to what we see in Texas for cyber.
Yeah, excellent. I like that comment, Pup, that you made about the whole of community approach. And I think we sort of discussed this a bit in offline conversations, but it seems like there's a lot of value to corporations for having a localized footprint here in Texas, for taking part in this.
I think that can't be overstated, right? Because you see across the cybersecurity landscape where you have the localized presence, and you can develop collaborative relationships and partnerships at all scale of industry, right? So you'll see companies like ours, for example, partnering with startup companies as small as a single individual, and scaling up from there. And those relationships are founded in and created by our presence in the local area and being able to engage and cultivate those relationships really on a personal and person-to-person kind of level. So I really can't overstate the value of being physically located here. Not to mention, it's Texas and it's South Texas and it's wonderful people and all that goes with it. So
great weather too, right?
Great weather.
Yeah, can't beat it. But I think cybersecurity is also a matter of is a business of trust. It's very much oriented towards that. A person to person. Even though we are enabling and equipping a digital connection, whether it's e-commerce or learning or telemedicine or anything, but behind the scene, the amount of collaboration, cooperation, and co-creation that happens with one-to-one personal relationships within cybersecurity is, cannot be overemphasized. And those startups that I've been involved with cybersecurity startups for ages now, as long as my career goes back. But I think those that have been most successful are the ones who work very closely and sometimes in person with their buyers as well as their other stakeholders in the community. So the Texas has been that community-oriented, collaborative environment, regardless of being south or north or kind of central Texas, you have that entire corridor, and if you can fork it out to Houston, you see a lot of collaboration, especially in the oil and gas as well as energy sector and medical sector, right? So I think we got it all. It's about putting it all together, and it can't be anywhere better than Capital Factory for being that center of gravity.
Val, I should probably just pay you for doing my job for me, talking about the triangle and our mission statement.
I'm not getting paid for this. I truly believe in the power of collaboration and bringing everyone together, especially for cybersecurity business.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to be said for it, and thinking about that same vein of the mission of Capital Factory and why we're here and why we do what we do. I'd love to dig in a little bit more about that startups component. I'm sure you know this, but for everyone watching, that the cybersecurity industry is really dominated by a lot of large corporations, right? And from a small business perspective, it can seem difficult to break into the cyber community, whether that's, getting that face time with your customers or even getting in the door and actually getting someone to agree to take a pilot with you. What sort of advice and best practices do you have for startups who are looking to get involved with, large corporate partners or figuring out how to break into the contract space in cyber?
Yeah, I think that's where also, the opportunity is basically having that one-on-one connections and then being close to the buyers. Probably Chris can talk about the whole San Antonio being the cyber capital of Texas. I envy, as much as I envy San Antonio for that, I think the entire Texas has a very, very huge, is a large commercial opportunity. Their local buyers, I have seen many small startups and in fact smaller organizations, even in the services field, breaking into larger organizations. Buying local is a common practice in Texas, especially the technology companies and the product companies which struggle for talent. And I think that's one of the biggest issues that we are dealing with from a Cyber Future Foundation perspective. Cybersecurity talent providing from the top to bottom is basically an issue. And as you